Hi. Hello, 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 hello. You can tell that I'm in the studio today. See both of them looking so bored. But I'm here. I'm the spice of the day. And my name is Adiola.
When you're married to King James and you're trying to behave like NIV.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm the message version. The message. Sweeter, softer, easier to digest. You know?
My husband is King James.
And that's him. It's the D thou. I am the Naru D thou.
Hi, hello, hello, hello.
Everyone. Hello, hello, hello,
Hi,
hello.
Deji. No audio. Oh, wow.
Well,
I don't know why. Okay, I'm gonna sort that out.
Wow, okay.
Okay, so the Adiola over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have a special guest, and she's a friend of the house. She's going to tell you exactly what she does. Because when I asked her, and she told me, I said, I don't get
Hello.
it,
Can you
but
hear me now?
other people, she's a
Can you hear
born
us now?
nurse, and her name is Julie. So, Julie, over to you. Can you introduce yourself, please? Oh, sorry, I didn't introduce these two. These two. One is
Deji,
Vicky,
can
the
you hear
other
me
is
now?
Praise. Since they are not introducing themselves, I'll introduce them. And my name
Hi.
is Adiola once again.
Hi.
And so today, once again, Julie,
Can
please
you hear
introduce
me?
yourself and what you do. And English that people like me understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure being on the show. Real deep conversations. So my name is Julie Mwobu, and I am known as the family bond nurse. Trust me, you said your school wasn't complete. Ours wasn't either. So we get to discover some of these things. What the family bond nurse or what family bond nursing is helping individuals become more aware of the different connections that they have and how these connections affect their health. So our work
Wow.
basically entails helping people identify their different connections, note the nature of these connections, and master how to leverage them to prevent illness, to manage health, and improve their quality of life. So that is what family bond nursing is about.
So I'm going to ask this question, and my first question will be, why is it important for why is your role important in the family life today?
It is very crucial because the human being is a sum total of all the influences around, and these influences are oftentimes invisible. So when these individuals come to the hospital setting, they are looking for care, or they come to the banks, or they visit any public place, and they are needing services. Those that are supposed to help them look at them as individuals. But family bond nursing is trying to bring to the conscious awareness of people that that person you're seeing in front of you has a whole battalion behind him that we may not see. So that person could be a father, could be an uncle, could be a nephew, could be a child. And these people are having demands from him. The place demands from that person. So the person is having to deal with a whole lot of emotional strains. So when you're dealing with one person, you need to understand that this person is not just alone. He is a part of a whole. So our role is crucial because our influences affect our decisions. They affect our choices. They affect our acceptance or non-acceptance of treatment. Why did I see this critical and why did I embark on this journey? I discovered in the hospital setting, I am a registered nurse by training. I discovered while on clinical grounds that many people were down in the hospital as a result of psychosocial issues. So you see them manifesting medical conditions. So I thought to myself, why stay in the clinical setting where people expect a miracle to happen? Why not step out and see how you can empower people to master how to relate with one another, have a healthier sense of belief so that they don't even come down with illness? Then, peradventure, a diagnosis has been made. So how do we prevent a complication? And let's say that we experience complications. So how do we prevent a ripple effect? So the concept of family bond nursing is to prevent at all levels before illness. Then when diagnosis is given, we prevent complications. When complications set in, we prevent a ripple effect. So it is important across health continuum.
Wow.
Interesting.
I've never heard this before.
Yeah.
I'm
me
actually
neither.
this month is the Women's Month, right?
Mm.
So we're trying to speak to people to see. Last week we talked about IVF and adoption and surrogacy and how women need to women need to understand the processes they're going through, but also understand that it's not that deep. And then men also need to understand that women are going through a lot and they should not possibly put them through those things. And also is also not that deep. And this we thought to then bring a nurse in to explain the reason behind why our health is important. But it's not just the physical health, it's also mental health as well. And from what I hear you say, is like you do a bit of both.
Yes.
You touch their psychological part, but you also touch the medical part, and you're able to, because I also believe that a lot of times disease or disease is disease.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's from your mind, or the things that you're thinking of. And so can you talk us through what, so if I came to you, for example, what process would you put me through?
So now that depends on what challenge or what complaint or concerns that you have. So for the individual who has no history of medical condition, what we're going to ask is, how do you run your 24 hours from the time you wake up to the time you go back to sleep? Like you said, that disease is like when one, like you explained, is when one is in disease. So illness is established when there is an imbalance. So our work is to see that individual that doesn't have any history of medical condition. First of all, you need to undergo some routine assessment. Let's just be sure that your numbers are intact. Because one of the things that I do is to redefine health. So health is not just, oh, I don't have a headache. Oh, I have never been admitted in a hospital. That is not the true definition of health. If we go by that definition that the World Health Organization has given, then it means that those who are currently ill will place themselves in a state that may not enhance their recovery. So we are trying to expand the definition of health, or we are proposing for the expansion of the definition of health so that it accommodates those that are already ill. Because we are all on a journey. We are all not perfectly well. If you're well physically, you have no physical pains, you have no physical conditions, it doesn't mean that you are
Yeah, well.
financial state. There just might be some gaps somewhere. So if I look at the individual who claims that, oh, I am not sick, I want to have you go through some medical assessment. Let's be sure that your parameters are okay. Then we're going to run you through some psychosocial assessment to know that, okay, you are in charge of your being, you're in charge of your emotions, you have an understanding what you go through, you know when to speak your mind, you know when to mind your speech, you know what relationships are toxic, you have a healthy belief system. Peradventure, you come in contact with any challenge whatsoever, you know how to manage it. And when you realize that you are at that boiling point, you know that you're going to tip off at any point, you know when to hold your peace, you know when to lean on someone, you know when to keep quiet, you know when to say, okay, I'm done, I'm unable to handle this and I need help. That is for someone who feels that they are totally well. So the health is not just for those who are sick and go to the hospital. Then for the person that has a medical condition, we want to know your home setting, want to understand the influences that you are surrounded by. Because when you get to the point of taking medical decisions, and I know we have seen it play out over and over again, where a woman is pregnant and probably getting into distress, the baby is getting into distress, and the doctor is saying that, you need to undergo CS. And the mother-in-law, the husband is saying, oh no, my wife is not going to go under the knife. So ahead of that, we want to know, when we coach pregnant couples, we want to know the relationship. We want to know who has the final say. We want them to understand that you are the primary decision makers. And for the woman, you primarily would decide what happens to you. So we try to empower them with this information. So to answer your question directly, for the one who has no illness, we run you through the regular physical assessment. Then you do the psychosocial as well. We check how balanced your life is or how in control you are of your life. And then for those who have medical conditions, we want to know, identify your strengths and your weaknesses. Are there areas and bonds that you could leverage? Are there the ones that you need to put aside to when you are stronger before you can take it up again and face it? So we do that assessment. Want to know the care you are currently undergoing. I did a broadcast today, and my plea to individuals was that, and still is that, when you are going through any medical situation and your doctor prescribes a particular treatment, please seek a second opinion, because things are changing, medicine is evolving, there are new innovations every day. So seek a second opinion, possibly a third or a fourth, so that you would take informed decisions and have a better approach to managing your health.
Wow.
Ah,
Okay, so I
I
mean,
only have one question for you. I will ask you later, but let them go.
yeah, I have two. Well, I have a point to buttress what you said just now about seeking a second or even third
Finish.
Opinion.
opinion. And then I have a question as regards to a comment made about women who, about educating women that they primarily have the final say. Because I want to situate that within our cultural setting, where, especially if you're married, and yeah, yeah, both cultural and religious. If you're married, your husband can tell the doctor, "This is how I want my wife treated," regardless of whether the wife wants to be treated that way
Like
or not.
natural pattern. Things like that.
Yeah, and things like that. Even when it comes to
Naturopath is
taking blood
spiritual.
and all of that.
The CS is on spiritual.
Anyway, so yes, a couple of years ago, I discovered a growth in my neck, and after doing several tests, what?
Because you are stubborn.
After doing several tests, um, I, went eventually. I had to see a surgeon, and the guy said, "Oh, we're going to remove your thyroid gland," and I was just like, just like
like
that. I mean, can't you offer? Okay, I know that there are two lobes. Can you not just remove one and leave the other one? Because you go to Doctor Google, right, and you start, googling all kinds of things. Oh, this is what the condition is. This is what's going to happen if they remove my thyroid gland. I'm going to add an excessive amount of,
Yeah.
certain things will happen to me physiologically. So I was just like, yo, this is so scary. And I didn't do the surgery at that time. I waited about 6 months. I went to a different doctor this time. And, he said, okay, you know what? If you're feeling so uneasy about it, let's take out one lobe. And if after further investigations and doing history, whatever, we find that there's no reason for you to take out the second one, then you're fine. Then you'll be okay, and you can continue functioning. So I went under the knife. We took out one lobe, then he came back and he said we've got to take out the other lobe. But you see, even though it was sort of more expensive to do because of course now I had to pay twice for two operations. I felt more at ease that I was making a decision that like I was prepared for, as opposed to just saying, "Oh yeah, take it out and be done with it," without really understanding the gravity of what I was doing or what it was going to do to me. And I remember going back to him, and and I so much weight. He was like, where are you getting all this information from?"
You don't listen to me.
Whatever. Where you getting this information from? Where you did? So I'm just like, but then it says just, it's not saying anything. Just take your medication, you'll be fine. You know. I was like, okay, well, thanks. I mean, now I have better
Understanding.
better
Are
understanding
you
and
fine
a
now?
better peace.
Are you fine or you are
But
assuming you are fine?
we're so quick to
He's
just
looking for your
and
trouble.
I'm ignoring him. We're so quick to just if somebody tells us or we go to one doctor, we say it's one thing, and then we're so quick to grab it and not do any further investigation. How many people have been misdiagnosed and
Yeah.
killed?
Someone's mother was told in Nigeria that she had cancer stage 3. And she was just telling me this today. And she flew her mother to the UK. And all they found was pneumonia,
Ah.
no cancer.
Oh, I know a personal friend of mine who they said she had to take out something in her body, and she went to take it out, only to then find out that it was the appendix that really was the problem. But she had taken, I think, I can't remember, another part out, and now she's suffering for it. But there was really nothing wrong with that part. What is going on in Nigeria?
We even know that we know there are plenty. There are many stories
No.
like that. So
Julie.
it's just the importance
Yeah.
of it's really important to
What exactly is wrong with the medical sector in Nigeria or the healthcare? Is it that our instruments are obsolete, or what exactly is going on? I mean, because I am aware that the average doctor I know now is planning to leave Nigeria. What is going on? Because it's looking like we will end up with Babalawo.
before she even answers that question, something that I went to do. I went to a Nigerian hospital. I mean, it's it's our family hospital. When I saw the surgeon that was going to operate on me, I told my mother, I said, family. I said, because maybe I will by the time I've gone. So let's not do it. Let's not do it. Yeah, do it. Because I'm thinking, okay, so they said, oh, they were going to, do a small incision at the base of my neck within the natural fold of my skin. So by the time it's healing, you would hardly see anything. I was thinking about that, and I was looking at the doctor that was telling me, so we'll cut from here to here, and I'm like, no, thank you. I'm looking at where I've come from, which was at the time was in South Africa, and I was looking at not just the hospital, but thinking about what the theater would look like, or what sort of instruments would be available.
Would there be lights?
Would there be lights? It's meant to be an ultrasound and directed procedure. So I mean, there's so much to consider. So much to consider.
And I think that's where she comes in, because even the process of some of the doctors explaining what you're about to do to you.
I'm telling you, I can't put the fear of God in me.
I mean, someone lost a friend. A friend lost her sister last week, and she had cancer stage 4. The doctor, they were on a Zoom on a video call, and the doctor was telling this person who has stage 4 cancer, he said, your organs have started packing up.
So you better get ready.
Because if you go off now, you may not be able to revive you. I think they will lead you to say, I mean, there are better ways to put what exactly is going on, Judy, with our medical sector.
Well, honestly, I do feel for those that are going through all of this. Funny enough, it might, will I say, shock you to know that I have been a patient myself. I have been a patient relative, and I have also faced these ills. One of it was very recent, I think about 2 years or 3 years ago. I was down. I wasn't feeling well. I had one of my daughters who had a bit of a pink eye, like we call conjunctivitis, just a mild one. Then I had my son with fever. Somehow I just managed, took him to the hospital. Then the doctor, that was in the night, the doctor just said, my husband was outside with the two of my daughters. I was in with my son, and the doctor just said, "We're going to admit him." I just smiled. His temperature was high. I didn't tell him I was a nurse. I usually don't mention. So I just smiled and I told the doctor calmly. I said, "No admissions, please." I didn't want to self-medicate. I didn't just want to take. I said, "Let me just take him through the normal process." So I said, "No admissions, please." The next thing he said was like, "I'm telling you I'm going to admit him and you're saying no admissions." So I sat down quietly. I thought to myself, this man is unaware that I have my husband outside taking care of one of our babies that is a little bit ill. He's unaware that I have a whole lot that I was dealing with at the time. that there was no way I was going to be able to stay and allow that, be able to function effectively, having my son in the hospital. Not aware of all of that, he just said. So I told him, I said, still no admissions. He said, anyway, that he's going to give us this medication. I should ensure I do not come back running in the middle of the night. Now, this was what I was told. So I said, don't worry, we're not going to come running to you in the middle of the night. Then we took the medications and we left. I monitored my son, took his medication, and he was fine. Now, these are some of the things that I witnessed in the clinical setting that I said, this isn't right. The last straw, one of the events that took place when I finally took my decision to do something about clinical setting was when a driver was, I think his toe got trapped under the wheel of a bus, like the kind of the BRT buses. I think he was drunk, or the driver driving was drunk, but he had alighted from the bus and somehow crushed his big toe. He landed in a hospital. And the orthopedic surgeon, I was there when the orthopedic surgeon just told him, okay, we're going to cut off this toe. And I was like, really? I was a student at the time. Just as you said, just like that, I'm going to cut off this toe. So the doctor, the man didn't respond. He said, when you're ready, you let me know. Then the doctor walked out. I went to the man's bedside, a full-grown man. I saw him, and there were tears in his eyes. So I went to his bedside. I said, is there anybody you want to talk to? He said, yes, that he has to speak with his wife first. Then I ensured that the wife came. I left them to themselves. Then I had to explain why it was important for him to have the toes removed. He told me to give them a moment. They had their moment. Then they agreed to undergo the surgery. So in the medical setting, we have people who believe that they have acquired these certificates and perhaps do not need some other kind of training. Funny enough, there are people who have done family medicine. In nursing, we're just springing up. They did a bit of that in school. I didn't know that family nursing existed and has been in existence for over 30 years. I came into nursing and said I was going to start family nursing. And that was about 10 years ago. Then I discovered that it's been in existence for years in other climes. So we go to school, we acquire these certificates, we come out and do not think that we need to take up training in other areas that addresses the other aspect of human functioning. So we just focus on medicine. Medicine, nursing started, when we call traditional medicine an alternative, to me, Western medicine is alternative. What actually started originally is traditional medicine. We were using our plant. We're surviving with natural foods, with organic foods. So now we are calling traditional medicine alternative, and we're having issues with them. I think the Western medicine is the alternative. Medicine and care started from the homes. Women were able to comfortably give birth to their children at home. We could nurse patients at home. So people come in and take care of them. And you find out that people are recuperating. They recuperate faster. They respond more positively to treatment when they are in the midst of their loved ones. For now, we isolate them, we take them to the hospital. Then when we approach them for training, when we approach them to introduce interventions that we think would work, they shut their doors. So we are dealing with people who are myopic. When I say people, we are hoping that our leaders, those in the healthcare positions, that top position, will come to that understanding. They would wake up. I went to nursing council and I asked one of the board members, I said, what are you doing? Nurses are leaving. So I went to the council and they were lamenting. They received over 200 applications for verifications daily.
Wow.
200.
Go out of the country. Wow.
Go out now. 200.
Wow.
I know a hospital in Lagos in November last year, 70 nurses left from one hospital. From one hospital. So apart from the fact that we have obsolete machines, we have the psychophants that these machines are, we have good people abroad, we have philanthropists, we have good-minded people who want to make contributions to the healthcare industry. But when they come and meet corrupt minds, I want to contribute, I want to bring in equipment, they're asking you for bribe. I'm bringing this for free. I'm not asking you to pay. So some people need bribe for people to do good. It's frustrating.
Wow.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
So you want to do something in the industry, then you have this power tussle. Personally, I for the second time, about 10 years ago, I wanted to give up on nursing. Another wave came to me last year in the heat of the pandemic. I wanted to just I tried, I went into that stream, the leaders, the political thing, not because I wanted to. I said, okay, let me work with some leaders. Let's see how we can make things happen. The demand was much. But when I saw the politics they were playing, I said, I'm done. And then I shifted. So we have some of these things happening, and it's demoralizing. The individuals we usually encourage, go and get some learning, get some entrepreneurial skills. What is going to save the industry are those who take up that bold step to start off something for themselves, start designing innovations that would help and sell to people. And I tell people, when we come to you with some solution, don't think we're after the money, because we are in the industry. We know the ills there. We can't be there. So we are designing interventions we are bringing to you because we don't want you to end up there. But they tell us, okay, we have all the help that we need. I don't know. I did a broadcast today. I will tell us there was a woman. There was a broadcast I saw on Facebook. A woman soliciting for help. She was diagnosed with cancer. And then I saw that they were asking for money. She wanted to go for surgery. I looked at the number. I decided to call. I saw the picture. I did a screenshot of it and then sent it to my consultant. I sent it to my consultant. Then I told him this is what is happening. He told me one thing. He said, Julie, if they put a knife to that, she's going to feel she's okay, but it's going to take just a few weeks and she will die. I didn't want to tell them that over the phone. So I called that number. I said, I recently returned from a trip. I went abroad and I traveled with a patient that had a similar condition. Only that hers was it had gone to the fourth stage and beyond. She's been battling it for 5 years. I saw innovations. I saw how this was managed. I knew there were other alternatives than the knife. So I told them, I gave them my social media handles. I said, this is who I am. This is the organization I work with. Verify my identity online. Pick a location. I'm not going to tell you where to meet me. Tell me where to meet you. Just please listen to me. Listen to these other options that you can take an informed decision. Please do not hurry to undergo surgery. On the day that we were supposed to meet, I thought we had an agreement. I called and called and called. There was no response. And then I decided to send a text. So when I sent a text, I got a response. And the lady, this is the sister. I wanted to speak to the person who was ill, but I couldn't reach her. So the sister was the one handling all correspondences. So the sister just said, we have all the help that we need.
Mhm.
And then I told my doctor, and I said, Julie, this is what we face. You cannot help who doesn't need your help.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So I stayed away. But what happened? I found out a year after. I asked my friend on whose wall I saw the information. And then he told me that, oh, so you knew her? I said, no. He said, she traveled. She did the surgery. It was successful. She came back. Everything was okay. But 2 months after, she passed.
Oh, no.
Wow.
So when we
Now-
talk
now-
about innovations and tell people, we want people to please listen. Don't just look at the money. Even if it has to do with money, wouldn't you pay if your karate practice would help you? Wouldn't you pay and improve your health? Second opinion is crucial. It's important.
Julie, I
Yes.
know you talk a lot about preventive medicine because, I mean, you are one of the people close mark me all the time. Now, from what you are saying, good doctors are leaving Nigeria. Our
Nurses.
nurses
are
and
leaving
doctors,
Nigeria.
not just nurses, but doctors.
Mhm.
We don't have the equipment. We have business people and politicians. Corruption is everywhere. What can the typical person do? I mean, in the midst of all of this, how can people, at least from their own side, prevent illness or at least maintain good health? What would be your tips for people?
Okay, so what I would encourage people to do is to search for information. There are some health management organizations that make health really affordable to people. So with a minimum amount, where you pay for the first, second, third month, you'll be able to access care that is worth millions. So they need to source for this information. But because they may not be able to tell what HMO to work with, I usually advise that they should have one healthcare professional, whether you're an individual or a family, someone you can always source quality information from. And this person can help you to access information that would help improve their health. So for the individual, there are basic things. There are basic things. COVID had to remind people how important it is to keep yourself clean, to maintain personal and environmental hygiene. It took COVID to get some doubting Thomases to start imbibing this culture. So let's know what is necessary for us to do: personal hygiene, environmental hygiene. Then you need to eat good food. It's important. We have so many people that have survived illnesses just by nutritional intervention. So you have these people as friends. So you can get information from them. What have I been eating? Just go online. The internet that we have is not just to say hi and hello. This bread I've been eating, what does it really contain? What does it do to my system? This yam I've been eating, how does it help me? So people should just go and search for information. And whatever it is you find, still seek medical opinion, because that is not final. Still seek medical opinion as to what to do with the information that you have gotten. I looked at, I've talked about food though briefly. I've talked about physical health, where people need to go for physical assessment. Then they need to check their mental health as well. Just as one falls physically ill and has a headache and go to the pharmacy or walk up to the doctor, the minute you're sad, you're worried, get a counselor as a friend, get the mental health expert as a friend, or just walk up to somebody and say, I'm not feeling it. I'll give an example, and that will tie to one of the comments that was made here about women being primary decision makers to their well-being. So,
Yeah, I still have a
a
question
woman
about that.
who has given birth to want to, even if it's her first baby, even if it's her first pregnancy, look at yourself. You know yourself better. You'll be doing yourself a disservice when you lie to yourself. When you know you can't take it anymore, open up and talk about it.
Ask for what you
Just be
need.
honest. Just be honest and say, at this point, I can't. I have been playing superwoman all through my past pregnancies. When it got to the last one, I knew it wasn't. I think PF. when they discovered, I was pregnant, my circle, they were like, oh, oh, oh. So it wasn't it for me at all, and I had to speak up. I had to speak up. So I said, I am not psychologically ready. I had to tell myself the truth. I am not psychologically ready for this pregnancy, but I am pregnant. So what next? I called a meeting in the house. You saw it was my husband who spearheaded. Okay, so what can we do to ensure a smooth pregnancy? And then I started outlining. I drew it was a full star. We drew it and pasted it on the wall. And you might think that these things don't matter. Please, when you look at the list, some of them you will feel they're insignificant, but it mattered to me. Please, when you spill water on the floor, clean it. Don't wait for it to go and see any mess.
Yes, please. Clean after yourself. Carry
So
your
that was
plate.
how we did that. So when you create a mess, you clean it up. That was when the mantra in my house started. Create a mess, you clean it up. You see a mess, you clean it up. Then we talked about the children's fees. We talked about a number of things. I said these things need to be addressed. That is how I would not subject myself to pressure mentally. I can focus on carrying this baby and birthing the baby. And God was awesome. Of all pregnancies, that was the most peaceful. But the thought came to me, Julie, you were able to go through this process. How about other people who can't? So I then embarked, empowering people with the information that you need to be honest with yourself. Don't go with that cliche that woman, you're a superwoman. Yeah, that's fallacy. You are a human being. You have blood running in your veins, not mercury. When you're tired, you say you are tired. And then let him understand. The manner with which you communicate that is what counts. But you're a human being and you feel things, so you say what you feel per time. So they know in my house, when I say I'm a ghost, they understand that all inquiries to daddy. Mommy is not available. I just say I'm a ghost in this house. So you don't see me, just act like you don't see me.
Yes.
So these are things we encourage people because at the end of the day, if they taught us in nursing school how to empower the woman, because once the woman is ill, that's because of the cultural responsibilities placed on her. That you need to do this, you need to do that. You are the power of the home, you are the pillar of the home, you are the honey in the comb of the home, and all of that. So the if the woman falls ill, every other thing loses balance.
Yeah.
So we need to get the woman. It's important because of our cultural understanding and our disposition currently. There
Yeah.
sadly needs to still be more emphasis on women's health. I was doing a job at some point, and I when I conceived for my last baby, I knew I had to tell my clients. They were foreigners, they were Indians. I knew I had to tell them that I was pregnant. So when I mentioned, they said, no, 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 you can't continue anymore, and all of that. I said, I'm fine. They said no, that in their culture, once a woman conceives, for the first trimester, she's not allowed to lift a pee.
Wow. Nigeria. Did you hear
Uh,
that?
Africa.
We found them.
Did you hear that?
you will pass
We have,
the
we have a question here.
Okay.
Elam says there are so many information out there. How do we know which information is authentic? And I think
That's
it's
why,
valid.
yes,
Like,
that's why I said, yes, that's why I said that you should have a medical
Doctor.
professional, have a doctor, have if you have a medical doctor, you have a nurse, you have a midwife. It has to do with pregnancy. You work with a midwife. WHO, the World Health Organization, says that a midwife-supported pregnancy has 85% chances of not having complications.
oh,
So I
wow.
would just even advise a midwife supported pregnancy has 85% success rate, no complications. But people don't know
Wow.
this. So the minute you're thinking of conceiving, having a baby, get a midwife, tag along with a midwife. She takes you through that process. And it's different from what you get in the hospitals. Because our hospitals, they are so overlabored, so they cannot give you that attention that you need. That is special, that is tailored
Special
to your
to you.
uniqueness. So it's important to have a health coach so that whatever information you get online, you run it by them. And they also, trust me, physicians consult among themselves. We do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So when a case presents itself, we call meetings because people have experiences, they have acquired learnings, they have come across new innovation. So there's no one that is an island of knowledge. There was a time I fell ill. A doctor said it was this, and he looked at it. He had to call his superior. That one had to call the most senior. So it took three consultants to decide to admit me. Me, I knew that if they had called for admission, that was the first time ever I was admitted for illness. I knew that if they called for admission, I would just if they didn't even ask, I'll tell them admit me because this one is strange. But it took three hierarchy of consultants to decide to place me on admission. So they consult among themselves. When someone comes across information online, run it by a medical professional, and then you would know what best to use. And I usually say, even when you hear from the medical person, ultimately, for those who are Christians, for me, it's the Holy Spirit. So you hear this, you hear this. It tells you what to do. So you get this
Okay.
information, you get this information. We are going into spiritual nursing. It's been projected that by 2050, they are infusing spiritual nursing in schools of nursing. And that's because of how we see ourselves. We cannot take spirituality away from Nigerians, away from
Yeah.
Africans. We can't. So I have used that when I had a patient who came down with high blood pressure, a high value. So I discovered that he held on strongly to his faith. I had to ride on that to get him out of that situation. It wasn't the drugs. So I said, do you believe in God? And he said, yes, he believes in God. And why are you carrying all of the burden? Just let him take care of it. But we took him through some psychosocial processes and his blood pressure crashed. Not the drugs, not the drugs. Then there was another woman who, one of these things with spirituality is that we get it all wrong, most of us. So we think we have faith, but we are actually afraid. So there was
Yeah.
another patient I came in contact with who was diagnosed with a blood condition and she needed a blood transfusion. She kept on saying, Ah, there's nothing wrong with me. There's, by the grace of God, there's nothing wrong with me. My blood is okay. She was making all of the confessions. And then I was like, okay, Holy Spirit, okay. I was still a nursing student at the time. I didn't know what to do before I got to know about all these interventions. So I was like, okay, so how do I approach this patient? What should I do? I went on to her and I asked her the question, do you believe in God? She said, yes. Yes. And I believe he would heal me. I said, okay, ma, if you believe in God and you believe he will heal you, then why did you come to the hospital?
Mm.
And then she stopped for a moment. She never thought about it. So why didn't your faith carry you enough to make you remain at home and get healed? So why did you come to the hospital? And then she stayed quiet. Then I told her that we are not asked. I said, the knowledge that the doctors have to have prescribed the blood transfusion, where do you think they got it from? And she said,
Hmm.
now God. I said, ma, we are not asking you to transfer your faith into the medical doctor. We're not asking you to transfer your faith into the pint of blood. What you can do with your faith is to say, Father Lord, this wisdom you have given to these professionals to prescribe this intervention, as this blood is running through my vein, let it be your blood running through and cleansing my system of any toxins.
Hmm.
I told her that, took her through that process. I left. When I came back the following day, an empty bag was hanging. And that was how she got well. She went to
Hmm.
church to give a testimony. So now we need to get, when I say spirituality is not just the name of in Jesus' name and all of that, I'm praying. We need to get it right.
I remember one day, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I'd been having some issues with my eyes, and so I decided to go to the optician. And so and the doctor knows me. So every time I come there, I say I'm testing my eyes. However, I know I have 20/20 vision. But it's okay, I'm ready to listen to what you have to say. So, anyways, I went to see the ophthalmologist and he said to me, checked my eyes and said there's suspicion of is it glaucoma or something. So I
Glaucoma.
said, so I left him. I said, that's fine. I hear you. He wanted me to do further tests. So I noticed that it was affecting me a little bit. So I went home and I said to myself, I am going to sleep. Before I wake up, I'm going to see that same doctor say to me that my eyes are okay and I'm going to sleep. And I went straight to sleep. And exactly what happened is what happened. I woke up and I said, now my day has started. This was like 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I didn't care what was happening. I didn't in front of everybody. People were wondering what was going on. And when I woke up, my daughter said, Mommy, you're sleeping. I said, I wasn't sleeping, I was calibrating. I was getting myself to a point where I needed to be for my day to start. And now my day has started. And so I went to do the test. And as I was doing the test, the lady was laughing at me. I kept on saying to her, I said, you'll find nothing wrong with my eyes. You'll find that it's physiological and not pathological. And she said, "What? Who gave you this kind of faith?" I said, I mean, I just know that nothing is wrong with me. You know, you may be seeing something, but your word is not final." And so they did all the tests, and she said to me, "There's actually really nothing. It's physiological." I said, "But I told you, I just wanted to pass through the whole process so that really, if by any chance there was something, then we can talk about it." But I knew somewhere deep down, or maybe because I had gotten to that, or I had seen the end before the beginning. So I hear you when you talk about spirituality, but you still need to do certain things.
I think um, what I can pick from what Julie is saying is doctors need to listen more
Mhm.
and observe. There's a series on Netflix called New Amsterdam.
That's
You know,
true.
it's a
That's my show.
Yes.
right. Season 2 is about to drop. Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I've seen it. I mean, you know, so and I noticed there was a particular time they wanted to perform a surgery. I mean, the cardiologist was the best guy in there, and there was this lady. What she believed was they had to perform this ritual. You know, so her blood pressure did not drop.
I remember
You
that
know,
episode.
for them to be able to operate, you know, perform, you know, that. But the doctor was adamant. Let's go in there, blah blah blah. When we realized that this was going to die,
And
so
every time they try to take her out of
Blood pressure will go up.
yeah,
Yes.
like her
Yeah.
everything
So
would go
it
up.
took the medical director to say, why don't you allow them perform
what they want to
their
do.
ritual? You know, reluctant eventually they did it, and
It worked.
it worked perfectly. They had the perfect blood pressure for them
Do the
to do
operation.
the operation.
Wow.
You know, so I think we need to. I think interviewing your client is very, very key. Don't just give them
Yeah.
tablets, which is
Yeah.
what a lot of doctors, I think maybe they are overwhelmed. You know,
They
In
really,
fact,
they really are overwhelmed. They really are overwhelmed. There's an assessment that we carry out when a patient is admitted in a hospital. The nurse does that admission process. So there's a form called the nursing process form. So on that form, you get to obtain a comprehensive history of these patients, and part of it is their belief.
but I've
So you
never
need
filled
to,
that form before. Never, I've never.
my
Where are you
dear,
from?
my
It's
dear,
very
when you have, when you have,
Which hospital?
when you have one nurse, when you have one nurse managing 15 patients, she really
Yeah.
cannot use the phone. She
So
really
the form
cannot use the phone.
every hospital.
The form is available in every government facility, and it's a standard nursing language that is supposed to be used across hospitals. So you
Wow.
have that form that obtains comprehensive history, even to sexual history, even sexual
Wow.
history, nutrition, elimination. How do you eliminate waste from your system? So they need to obtain that history. They obtain family history, they obtain reproductive history, physical, exercise, sleep. How do you sleep? So
Ain't
they
nobody
obtain
got time
all
for
of
that.
this. But with all this information, the caregiver or the professional is supposed to be empowered,
Yes.
knowledgeable, to be able to
Yeah,
attend to.
Yes.
But
Yes.
because
Yes.
we are overburdened, the system is stretched, we are not maximizing our tools and we
yeah.
cannot help our patients.
Apart from even the health professionals being overburdened, you will see people say, "Why you ask me all this kind of long question now?"
Yes.
Say,
And it's not just
headache
for
they
them.
pain,
It's meant
my head
to.
they pain me. They ask
they
me
will
who
even
did I
lie.
sleep
They
with?
will lie about it.
Laugh.
Yes, and
They will
that
lie.
is where the work of advocacy and education comes in. So we tell healthcare professionals that please do not just stick to the bedside. We have a lot of work on the field. Go educate people to understand certain things so that when they come into the hospital, they know what to expect. Why are we asking you these questions? Let them know the link. And that is why we are pushing what we are pushing. So, what is your connection? How strong is your belief? We need to assess. So, if I understand that a patient has a strong belief to his practice, just like PF, Prince Owe said, allow them. If they believe in their Bible or their Quran, let them place it on their head or something. Let it be there. That will help. At the end of the day, you want your client to get well. Let him put the Bible there under the pillow if that is going to help the situation. So we need. I usually advocate for making a critical assessment of one's belief because belief determines what the patient accepts and what they do not. So they could say a patient has a right to refuse a treatment, and that's why there's one language that says leaves against medical advice, LAMA.
Mm.
So the person with LAMA, you are free to LAMA if you want to, but
Yeah,
but when a patient refuses treatment, what we are dealing with is it's a systemic problem. We had a session with 3 schools of nursing in the East. We had a 3-day session with them. We painted a scenario and we are asking them, what if you come across a patient who refuses a particular procedure? What would you do? To our utter dismay, many of them were saying, I'll document it, I'll document it, I'll document it, meaning patient refused, patient refused, patient refused. Then we told them the minute a patient refuses a procedure, that is when your nursing skills must be activated. That is when you become a nurse. That is when you become a doctor. So when the patient says, no, I don't want this procedure, take on your critical thinking cap, done it on, sit down with that patient and ask why. There must be something that happened somewhere that made this patient take the decision. You are the professional, you know they need this, but they are refusing. So rather than just document it, sit down and find out why. You just might help that patient. And sometimes I don't want to say I don't want to blame them, but when they have many patients to manage,
yeah. I was just gonna
they
say
don't
that.
have the time.
I want to ask, how do you guys manage to rest? You know, because most times you look at doctors, they're smiling, but you know they are stretched and they are stressed. You know, how do you guys manage your mental health? How do you
And
manage
physical health.
to physical health?
When COVID broke out, one of the things we're trying to push to the Lagos state government at the time was some kind of mental health exercise for the caregivers because we were stormed with calls, medical professionals wanting to resign because they know their facilities weren't equipped enough. And they told them, you're your own, it's your health, you better take care of yourself. So they were left to source for PPE by themselves. So many of them were scared because they were not adequately prepared for this pandemic.
Yeah.
So they had that to deal with. But because we have leaders that I don't know whether they are, I should call them myopic or the people who misplace priorities. We couldn't push through. So what we noticed was you push an idea to them, they quickly do some paparazzi that we're going to do this, we're going to do this. There was one idea we pushed, and they said they were going to look into it. The next thing I saw an app that was developed. Then I asked an insider, I said, okay, so how is this running so that we can refer people because the calls are overwhelming? She said, Julie, that app that you see, that's where it ends. That she has asked, that they don't know what they are doing. We don't know who is in charge. What is the process? What's the procedure during the heat of the pandemic?
Hold on, Julie, hold on. Now, this app she's talking about, I just got the history of this app at the meeting I was attending.
Right.
A guy came from the UK, pitched this app, an international, if I created the app, an international organization wrote to the Ministry of Health to say this thing can help and blah, blah, blah. So the guy that had the idea, they bypassed the guy and went to create their own.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
In fact, the guy is very bitter. That was what my friend was just telling me on the phone, and consistently, instead of allowing people who know how to do something to execute
And
it,
are passionate about it.
Yes. So how many bond nurses exist in Nigeria?
Yeah. Because I ain't never heard of y'all before.
Like how many of you? How have you educated you and how many of you?
and you have stopped taking care of me anyway.
And I from tonight, you are my best
She used to
friend. I
come to
just need you
massage
to
my
know.
hands.
From tonight, Julie, you are my best friend. You are my best friend. I've bestowed best friendshipness on you from tonight. I need you to know that when we finish this call, you are getting a message from me, and our friendship begins. And
No,
you will call Ernesto. How many of you exist?
Okay, so we started in 2017. We have been able to train a number of people. When I say intensive training, we've done that for just about 40. Then orientation that we have given, the orientation we have done, we have reached over 1,000 nurses, both in Nigeria and in Ghana. So the work goes on. We are working with hospitals now. We're trying to push this into facilities and want to create empirical outcomes so that they know. When you write things in black and white, they see it. You can't argue with results. So we are collating the outcomes that our nurses that are experiencing when they interface with clients. And we're putting this together, we're pushing it. We're pushing it to ministries, we're pushing it to hospitals. There are some hospitals, in fact, we have an appointment with one that they're asking for this. Then for the public, we also push for nurses and other caregivers to take up this same assignment and work with families. So it's actually like a long walk to actualization, but we are not giving up anytime soon. We don't even have plans of giving up.
You have to be a nurse to practice or learn or because I don't mind being trained.
No, you don't have to be a nurse. For instance, we are raising caregivers that will be able to work with pregnant couples. So I call pregnant couples because it's two people that came together to form a baby.
Yeah.
So it's pregnant couples that we address, or pregnant partners to accommodate those who aren't legally married. So we know that there are women who are pregnant. These are some of the things we tell our caregivers. So when they come in and they see a pregnant woman, you don't just ask her, so how about your husband? You might be offending her because she may not be married. So you just ask. So How is the father of the baby? How about the father of the baby? When you give her a
Right.
form to fill and she signs that form and puts a different name from what she's answering, oh, ask the question, say, "Ah, is it not your husband? Why are you answering different names?" So these are some of the things we take them through. So you don't have to
Yeah.
be a professional nurse to be able to handle some of these responsibilities because the work, see our nurses are leaving. So how many people are going to be in Nigeria to do the work
Emily
anyway?
remain
So
registered.
Help me train the two of them. I have an assignment for you already.
no wahala. So we need the people that will be able to work with families, with especially, and my concern usually is for childbearing families. Yes, I know I work with those who are elderly and they need care and all of that. We have people that are battling with managing medical condition. We recently lost a patient. I lost a personal patient who battled end stage renal disease. He had end stage renal disease, and it was difficult managing him because the siblings were not together. The
Wow.
siblings were not together. So who do we talk to?
Then,
His alumni
yeah.
was able to raise the fund. He spent over 20 million in about 18 months to take care of himself. So his alumni did something, they were able to raise some funds. But he was a strong person. We couldn't do much because the siblings weren't together and it was difficult taking a decision. He was the last born of the family. So he relied some, not because he relied, he didn't want to go past them and take certain decisions. He still, even in illness, facing death, had respect for his seniors, but they weren't forthcoming as we expected them to be. But he lived his best life. He actually did, in the sense that he transferred all of his culinary skills to his housekeeper. I was always visiting him, and then he would take time even when he's ill, his feet are swollen, he's tired. The minute he has a little bit of strength, he goes into the kitchen and puts his housekeeper through all his skills. He said whatever it is she wants to do with it is her business. I have transferred everything to her.
Wow.
So
Okay. Listen to the
we have people
next
going through this, but we need, okay.
No,
Someone
they were
was
just
saying
saying.
taking a lot of
Oh,
time.
thank
I
you.
have something to say. So I mean, I have something to say. I'm going back to this question of women and their health and who is in charge. And I'm specifically now a married woman because
Mhm.
the situation is again within our client as cultural and heavily reliant on religion and religious teachings. So when a woman is seeking medical help and she has to make certain decisions that her husband doesn't want. You see a lot of time where the husband is the one that says this is what is going to happen, this is what must happen.
My love.
But when you in medical, I don't know, maybe in medical law or legally, who is the person who has that final say? The first and final say, unless of course she gets to a point where she can no longer make a decision because maybe she's in coma or something. But there must be a process.
It's you, my
I'm
The
gonna
Ghana.
I'm going to,
patient, the,
I'm
the
going to
patient is
add
the,
another question
okay,
before you
okay.
can answer. So I'm taking it now to a pregnant couple, so a pregnant woman. They come, the in-laws or their parents or the husband comes and says you need to start to drink herbal stuff and it will help you to with your process, and they force it on you. So it's not something that you really want, or you allow them force it on you because you still have a choice. But because of this setting book is talking about, which is a religious setting, they then say, oh, you must listen to your husband. Then it's not worse if it's not your husband's mother or your husband's sister or something, or auntie, who then feel like this, you must take this thing. What do you do? I remember me, my husband asked me if I was going to take something. I said, you want me to shit the child and the drug out, then give it to me to drink? And that was the last time he offered me he offered me any herbal support.
Yeah,
But some
that
people don't.
Not so
A lot of
much.
people. So what do you then do?
Most women are
Who
not
has the
in charge.
who has the final
Most
say?
women are not in charge of
the
their
patient,
health decisions.
The patient is in charge.
the
Once you are above
patient,
80.
the patient, the patient is in charge. The patient is in charge. There's a diagnosis that will be discovered, and if the patient says, "Don't tell my,"
Well, Are you there, Julie? Um,
Let's wait for her to
I'm like,
to rejoin us. But like most women don't.
I've heard, especially, I mean, like in the religious setting, they say you can't do this. The Bible says this. You can't do that. You must, or your
Bible
husband is
says
the
what?
Lord. Your husband is the Lord. Now, in that kind of situation, if your faith, my own faith is different. If your faith carries you in that space, that's fine. But what if my faith doesn't carry me? What do I then do?
It's honestly it's
What
important. So
you don't have
the
a choice.
the bulk.
We're listening to you, darling.
Okay, so the bulk of this responsibility lies on education and advocacy. So people perish for lack of knowledge. So they suffer for lack of knowledge. They subject their loved ones to untold suffering for lack of knowledge. So it's important for us to keep educating people. And I like what Chris Owe is doing with family systems engineering. Is first of all, breaking the hard rocks for the man to understand that, hey, you're not the line of the tribe of your home. You're a leader to lead them to a better
Yes.
place. So he needs
Yes.
to understand that fatherhood is responsibility. Being the man of the house means that you've got to roll your sleeve and put your hands down to work. So it's not a positional thing. It's not a right thing to write over other people. So that is helping a whole lot. So when it comes to the medical setting, feeling cool.
Don't
When it
mind
comes to
me.
the medical setting, we look at the patient. So if a patient, for instance,
oh,
I
man.
No.
Our time is almost ready.
Hey, relax now.
You know, I feel like she needs to come back.
Yeah, we'll bring her back.
She needs to come back. Yes, we can hear you now. We lost you.
We lost you,
But
for
you're
a
back
minute.
now.
You're back.
yes. So if a patient says, don't tell my husband, the medical professional doesn't have a right to do so. But if
Right.
he sees that not telling the spouse could cause more harm,
Then you need to do full disclosure. I get it clearly. We had a client recently that my husband brought, and the man is broke. The lady is one thing, but he wants to know everything we're discussing.
Yeah.
So my type therapist said, I can't divulge this information. You can ask your wife. Your wife should tell you. Then the guy got upset. So he started calling me. I said, no, that professional ethics. I mean, your wife is an adult. We have no right to be telling you. We write professional report. You don't send wife's report to husband because there may be things in the report that you have not told your spouse.
Yeah.
So we allow you room to
do it
yourself.
Yeah.
When you go and destroy patient.
I mean, I think it's really important, especially since the fact that at the end of the day, now you get your life.
But I also feel like, and I may be wrong, but I also feel like more courtesy because of where we are. More courtesy is given towards the man. I'm talking about living in marriage setting now. That more courtesy is given towards the man. So you would hardly see where the doctor is discussing the man's condition
with his wife.
You will see more of the wife of the doctor discussing the wife's condition with the man.
There's no statistics.
It's not right.
Yeah, it may be happening.
Ideally, the doctor should ask, do you want your spouse in?
Yeah.
Then you can now say, I want my. I don't even like hospital naturally.
Yeah.
So when do you want your spouse in? That might be excuse sometimes. But when I say it, I say it in there. Julie, are you there? What's your final word? Oh, so we gotta go. It's fine. But I mean, I've learned a whole lot.
It's amazing.
Julie, we have to bring you back. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
You're on mute.
We've run out of time.
Okay.
What's your final word before we go?
And how can people find you?
Yes.
Like me.
okay,
Like
so
me.
I could be reached across social media at Julie Mobo. Julie Mobo across social media. Then website, we run a package for hospitals, for nurses, for families at Royal Nursing Consults. That's the website, royalnursingconsults.com.ng. So final words to those out. Okay, Royal. Royal with an E.
Royal.
Royal Nursing, yes. Royal Nursing Consults with an S, consults with an S, .com.ng. You can find our services there. Final words to people. Maybe I'll just focus on women's health. So
Yes,
women need
yes.
to understand that they are human beings and it is blood, not mercury, that is running through their veins. What you feel at a particular time, please speak up. If you cannot find help in your partner or in your spouse, look for help in a trusted person or organization. When we talk about bonds, they are not necessarily connections by blood. So bonds could be social bonds, you could have spiritual bonds, you could have financial bonds. So look for other bonds that you can leverage while you're working on that of the family, if that of the family isn't working. So bottom line, seek for help because it doesn't mean that you are weak. It is just you trying to remain strong.
I'm a good coach. Eh?
Thank you so much.
I just see my player performing.
It's feeling cool.
I'm happy for you, Jimmy.
Thank you, PM.
So Julie, thank you
Julie,
so
thank
much
you
for
so
opening
much.
our
Yeah.
eyes,
My pleasure.
to the amazing work that you're doing, and hopefully you can reach more lives and change more lives and educate more people and empower more people and grow more people
And change the
sustain
industry.
more, yeah, and
Yeah.
change things. I don't know why you don't have like a cape behind you with a huge S, and people are singing your praises all over the world, because I mean the kind of work that you do is amazing, and I really, really am honored to
It's a
have you.
miracle.
Yeah, you are really a miracle. I started saying that I'm in the business of performing miracles. However, I think you're my master. You're my master in performing miracles. So it's okay. It's okay. What they say. I'm humble. And
Thank
one
you,
day
Julie.
we definitely will call you back, because we need to hear more from you and more of you and more by you. And yes, God bless you.
Tayo, you're
Thank
not
you.
okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
Well
so much.
done. Thank
So
you for
it's
bringing me
Royal,
on.
sorry, give us
Royal
I'll
Nursing
give you
Royal Nursing Consults with an S.
.com.ng.
.com.ng.
And her
Awesome.
name is Julie, Julie Mogbo.
Yes,
If you're looking for her on social media,
please.
you're gonna get a message from me immediately. I can promise you that.
Thank you everyone for coming on the show.
Thank
Julie, we appreciate you. Have
so
a
much.
fantastic evening. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
On that note, we've come to the end of another show. See you.